what I got. Our movie of the week, ladies and gentlemen. We have entered the season of actors. I have chosen Robin Williams, and this guy's shaking his head. What is he shaking? Like,
I like
Robin
Williams. I have my thoughts on it too.
That's okay. You got. That's what movies are supposed to do. Movies are supposed to let you have thoughts. Let's talk about those thoughts. All right. What Dreams May Come, directed by Vincent Ward, written by Richard Matthias and Ron Bass, starring Robin Williams, Cuba Gooding Jr., and Annabella Sciorra, and came out in 1998. Chris Nielsen dies in an accident and enters heaven, but when he discovers that his beloved wife Annie has killed herself out of grief over the loss, he embarks on an afterlife adventure to reunite with her.
And wasn't just his death, their children too.
Right.
Yeah.
Can I ask a question about that accident with the way he dies? How exactly did that car go flying down the tunnel like that? And nobody else, like all those cars are stopped, but that one car decides to still.
Yeah, that car didn't see anything.
Through a construction zone, no less.
Yeah,
that's definitely a green shirt guy moment. I'll give you that. That's
I give you that as well.
The other one that got me at the very beginning is after they meet and they're doing their little love montage. Why is it they both walk into the wedding together?
Yeah, it's supposed to be. The groom supposed to be already waiting for her.
Right.
That was a dream, though. Wasn't that the dream, though? That was the dream. That wasn't the real wedding, I don't think.
No. At the very beginning, the wedding at the beginning, because he's giving you his story up to that point.
Yeah.
Oh.
You see them both walking down. Yeah. Like if you saw them walking
that's
out,
two,
it would be
2 for 2 green shirt guys. Two green.
The altar.
I thought about that the same way too, because I'm like, is it your father supposed to be the one to walk with you?
Well, assuming he's the
bride. Yeah. Oh, true.
I thought the visuals for this movie were really good, considering it's 1998. You know what I mean?
I will give you. Artistically, it was a very good looking, very new. Not even that it was new. It was just very well. That I'll give you. Especially when it's paintings as opposed to like when it becomes real. The painting stuff was actually really kind of neat.
Yeah.
What happened to Cuba Gooding Jr. as an actor, by the way? He just fell off the earth.
Hey, he was pretty good in this movie.
Okay, so I did look it up. He's fighting some legal troubles
for
sexual assault.
Oh,
yeah.
Enough said. Enough said.
Let me just put it like this: Diddy's name was mentioned in. Yeah.
Oh,
so that's all I'm gonna say. That's all I'm gonna say.
So in the beginning of this movie,
social media.
In the beginning of this movie, like we were talking about, he's with his wife, he's with his kids, and the kids die in a car accident.
Which you don't really find out until about halfway through. You kind of get the idea, but they don't confirm it until about halfway through.
Yeah.
What, that they died or in a car accident?
That it was in a car accident.
Oh,
they died, but
because he says that's the last time we saw them alive after that. So they died in a car accident, leaves him and his wife. The wife ends up going to a mental institution.
And had tried to kill herself before that.
Previously, And then Robin Williams' character, on his way to like help her out with something, there's an accident in the tunnel. He gets out as a doctor because he's a doctor, and I like the way he plays the doctor too. Like he's very, very good with the kids.
Well, has he done what do you call it?
Patch Adams, I think.
Patch Adams before.
Yeah.
Yep.
So he goes to help with the accident, and while he's helping, the green shirt guy moment happens where the car just comes out of nowhere, flies, and hits him, and he ends up dying. And then it's from his perspective, that point on, his death, and he watches his life basically flash before his eyes, and all that, and he goes to what they say is heaven. And heaven is in this movie, everybody has their own like little imagination universe that they can create things and stuff. He meets Cuba Gooding Jr.'s character, and It's the doctor that he thought of as a father. That's
who
gonna
he then meets again later.
Yeah. So then, he's happy. He's he eventually meets his daughter there. The visuals were pretty cool on that. When she had the toy thing, she was like, "Is that what heaven looks like?"
Right.
And then you look at the where he's at, everything matches it, and he realizes, "Oh, this is my daughter," because she shows up as an Asian lady that he gave a compliment to.
Right.
On a plane.
So her daughter
it was deep though. She thought she would never live up to that image.
Yeah.
And I was like, that's pretty deep. And then they eventually find out that the wife unalives herself.
Well, did you notice too that Cuba Gooding Jr. up until that point was wearing cream or white, but when he goes to tell him, he's wearing all black?
Oh.
Wow.
See, that's a good green shirt guy moment.
That's a little subtle. You should have been foreboding right there. And then he says to him, "I'm going to tell you something. It's going to be really hard." I'm like, "Well, you know what's coming here," because he's wearing black.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's a great moment where they're at the gates of hell, and he's like, well. Let me be clear. I don't agree that everything here is how I personally believe, but the afterlife is. I'm looking at the message of this movie more than what they're saying.
The message is that if you kill yourself, it's okay, and then someone will come and save you.
No, that's not the message.
That's kind of what that's.
No, it's not. That's a very grand message statement for this movie. I think this is more of love and being alone, people being left alone. And I thought it was very. We'll jump right to it. Like he'd rather stay with his wife there. That's how much he loved her. That's the point.
I get that, but by the time I got to that point, I'd already tuned out a lot of stuff. What really bothers me right after that, though, is, everything's fine. They're all in heaven now, which I don't take this the wrong way, but that in my language, but that's bullshit. But right after that, we'll leave the kids here. And we'll reincarnate ourselves to go do this again. Well, what the fuck was the point the whole time?
T-shirt guy.
I'm sorry. I'm annoyed by this. What was the point? What was the point? You're going to do all that
too. I turned to Kamara and I said, "Hey, we ain't going back."
To get to your wife so you can go maybe track her down again.
Yeah. Yeah. If you look at the grand scheme of things, I don't want to get too religious. If you get the grand scheme of things, and I thought about this myself with my mother passing. I don't think she's in hell. I know where she's at. But I said if she was, Aisha was going to write a book about it. And if you're down there, you're down there for a reason. So if you're going to hell to rescue somebody, wouldn't that be a defiance of what God said? He said that person needs to go to hell, but now you're going to hell to take her out of hell.
Remember, that's what I say. Like when you watch this movie, don't come into this movie with your own personal beliefs. This is a movie.
But I have.
You get what I'm saying?
With my own personal beliefs. That's not.
I know, but you come in with them, but because I come in with them too. I don't believe in reincarnation. I don't believe that's the way heaven is. But the suicide, can't say it because of the algorithm, but the unaliving thing, I've thought of, it's the thing that I've thought of all my life, like where's it go? And I've kind of come to a place where like nowhere in the Bible does it say, if you do that to yourself, you go to hell.
Well, because
nowhere.
Let me just push back on that. I hear what you're saying, but there's a lot of things that aren't mentioned in the Bible, but the absence of evidence does not mean that it's the other way around either.
What do you mean?
So nowhere in the Bible does it say. Let me see if I can use a cogent example. Can't think of one. I can't think of one off the top of my head. To be perfectly honest, I can't think of one. But because there's a lot of Jesus didn't talk about this. Because Jesus didn't talk about it doesn't mean there aren't other examples that are in that same.
Right. I would agree with you, but if it's not talked about, then it can't be a definitive.
I will grant you that.
Yeah.
However, you can't tell me, and I know I'm gonna split the room with this because it's just my personal beliefs, and you can hate me if you want to. I know that you have to get to a super dark place in your life that's you feel like that's your only out. But for me, suicide will always be an immoral, selfish act because you're doing something for yourself, not thinking about how it's going to affect everybody else.
There's a lot of variables in there too, though. You know what I mean? There's a lot of mental health issues.
That may be the case, but it's still a choice.
That's why I would never like judge anybody on it because, like, I don't know what a person's going through. I know I've had moments in my life. I've had moments in my life where I didn't contemplate suicide, but I contemplated like, what's worth living if this certain thing doesn't go. And then when I got to that point, I was like, oh my God, I can see why people would do that now. I can see why I wouldn't do it because, like, I agree with Green Shirt Guy. Like, I'm not going to do that to my friends and my family and stuff like that. But me as a person not like mentally gone, imagine those who are really, really off. You know what I mean? I can see why it would be done, and I don't think I would. I'm not a judge of people, you know what I mean? Yeah. But you're right. I believe in the majority of cases, it is a selfish act.
And also, I will agree with both you guys with the fact that why would you want to be reincarnated to find the off chance you might find her again, but you won't see your kids?
Yeah, that's the fantasy of the movie, though. Like they'll find.
No, he said that they'll be here when we come back. We don't have to.
Why wouldn't they reincarnate themselves? You know what I mean? Like, so that's that.
Like after a while, wouldn't the kids be like, "Let's reincarnate ourselves so we can find our parents"?
That's all messed up.
Yeah, see, I'm saying that's what I'm saying. Like there's some loopholes in there. In their logic,
yeah, you're right.
Yeah,
you're right. I like Max what's his name?
Max von Sydow. He was great.
He was great.
Yeah. How about the scene where he's going to find the wife and he's like tiptoeing and all of a sudden he sees her and then he just starts stepping on heads?
Yeah. That's the creepiest. I said, when it came out, I said this is one of the creepiest moments. But everybody's face, and then he saw his dad.
Yeah. Well, it wasn't his dad though. He thought it was, and it wasn't. Right. That was creepy. But I tell you, what was creepier for me though was where they were on the boat and all the hands were coming out of those people swam up. That for me was creepier.
Yeah.
I've seen that a lot in stories like these, like in not just movies but in video games. You know, you cross the river, you will see people's hands coming up of lost souls and things of that nature.
The river Styx.
Yes.
Because in the movie she says I feel like I'm lost in a sea of faces.
Well, I mean, everything that was in the afterlife, if you will, was a representation of something that they had said while they were alive. Because his son, the reason his son is with him, he's like, "You're the only. If I ever had to go through hell, you're who I want by my side." And then, of course, that happens.
That was a funny part though when they were about to go in, and when he grabs him, he's like, "No, your mother's not in there." All the people at the gate they stop moving. I think I seen one of the eyes move on one of the actors. Like, what are we supposed to do here?
I do that a lot too when somebody's like either frozen or they on the slab. I said, let me see if they're breathing.
I do that all the time with just to see if they're breathing. Yeah.
All right. That's what dreams may come. Anything else you guys want to add before we get to numbers?
What happened? And do we know what happened to Annabella Sciorra? Because she kind of fell off the earth too.
Yeah, she did.
She was She was hot for back then too. I remember her in a bunch of stuff.
Yeah, because her last film, some weird movie called Fresh Kills from 2023.
Oh, so that must have been like a straight to video or something.
Yeah, it looks like it.
Anytime I see a Robin Williams movie, especially in his later work, not so much when he's younger, I always it doesn't take me out of the movie, but anytime there's a pause when he's standing there, he's got his hands like this, or he's holding something, I'm always like, man, he was a hairy man, wasn't he?
Oh, I said that right here in this scene right here, and his arms. I say,
oh yeah,
bad hair on his arms.
Right. Well, that's what
was
cracked me up too, because remember how when he starts the journey, he's fully clean shaven. By the time he gets to the wife, he's got a little bit of stubble. I'm like, you've been gone long enough for you that you should have like a beard right now.
Full beard. She was in the Tulsa King. That show with
okay.
She's in that.
Wasn't she the wife or the one that he cheats with in that Wesley Snipes movie where the one where he has the Asian wife and he cheats on her when he's out on business? Isn't she the affair?
Oh,
you know what movie I'm talking about?
I think I do. I'm looking at her filmography right now. If I find it, I'll let you know.
All right, let's get into some numbers. See, Bizzle, you're first.
Always put me on the spot. No, I'm just joking. This film came out. I graduated high school. Around the time when I graduated high school. That's how old. Excuse me. This film is. The visuals was great. This movie really touched me in a way that, like I said, my mother passed away in 2009, and when I say I want to write a book, I want to write a story. I wanted to write a story similar to like y'all remember it was a video game called Dante's Inferno. Like he lost the love of his life and he was going through this seven or nine circles of hell. I can't remember how they described it.
I think it is
seven. Yeah, to rescue his wife, and this feels like something similar.
Isn't that basically the story of God of War? At least the first one.
Roughly.
Right.
Roughly, yeah. But it's based upon the actual book by. I'll look it up later. But that's what this film reminds me of. The visuals to this is very beautiful. Some of the best in the 90s. And you could tell that the technology, the CG technology is getting better and better as we is approaching the year 2000. So with all that being said, I would have gave it a little bit higher score, but Sam made me grab tissues, so I'm gonna give it a 6.5. I would have gotten a 7, but I give it 6.5.
Ronaldo.
So the reason it's getting the score it's getting is because I do like the visual. I think artistically it's a great movie.
Yeah.
I don't like the morality of the movie. The story really bothers me, so I'm gonna give it a 4.
A 4? Jeez. All right. I'm gonna give it an 8, just because the pacing's done really well. Like I said, the end story of it, the end of never being alone. I really like the fact that he felt sorry for the fact that he was, like, when she was in the mental place, he realized, like, oh, I should have been there with you instead of just leaving you there. And then when he finally finds her in hell, instead of like leaving her there in hell, he'd rather stay there with her than leave her alone again. And I thought that was really powerful. And the visuals were great, the acting was great. That's why I gave it an 8.
Well, that's the question I have. Through the whole movie, they keep talking Double D, and I know they talk about it when you get to the flashback of that. But what was the Double D? Divorce or decision?
Decision day.
Decision day. Okay, I'm sorry.
Yeah. So that gives it a 6.1. We're 0.9 below the IMDb this week.
Maybe if Phil and Cliff was here, it probably would have gotten higher.
Yeah. But they're not here, see, Pizzle. They're not here. That's fine. I love this. What do you guys think? You guys out there put in the comments section.
I'm just trying to build up your spirit, you know.